sees me. It was so awkward. He was like, "Oh, what's up?" And I was like, "Hey, how's it going?" He's like, "Oh." And then he walks back in his office and shuts the door. Comes out about 30 seconds later, completely different demeanor, gets in my face and is like, "You're not allowed in here." Because he said, "Who gave you the authority to come here?" And I looked at him, I was like, "The President of the United States," when he called me yesterday. After the trial, I went back to work thinking just like I talked about that Master Chief had said, you swim your way back. And I thought that's what I had done. I went through the gauntlet. It was like, I'm back, showed up. I was like, I'm ready to go back to work. They were like, "You're banned." They banned me from all the teams, the bases, and they stuck me in supply down at another base again. And they said, it was the same deal, like report there every morning. I wasn't allowed to put in for my retirement because the punishment for my court-martial hadn't been officially gone through yet. I had to wait for some admiral's signature, which they said could take months. So I just had to, show up and not do anything. And so all I did at that point, I was like, I had so much leave. I never took it. So I was like, I'm just going on. I would go back to Florida, and spend time with my family, and then come back, every 2 weeks, come back and be like, okay, what's going on? They were completely blocking me from getting anything done. I was not allowed to go to, I still belonged to Trade It, but I wasn't allowed to go there. Mm-hmm. So all of my paperwork, everything I needed was there, but I wasn't allowed to access it. So it was just a stupid game that they were playing with me. The command would toy with me, like the Group 1 Master Chief would be like, "Oh, we need you to move all your stuff out of your cage into this Connex box." And then next week, "Oh, move it out of that Connex box over here." It was just stupid stuff. And, I was pissed, but my lawyer and a couple other people would advise me. They were like, "Do not do anything. If they're fucking with you, just let them fuck with you. Don't give them any reason, to come after you anymore." So I played it cool the whole time. And then, that's when I got the phone call from the president. I was coming back from Florida back to San Diego, and I landed in San Diego, and I got a call from my lawyer saying, "Hey, if there's a weird phone number that comes up, pick it up." And I was like, "Why?" And he's like, "Just do it." And it's like, "All right." And sure enough, it was one. I think it said it was from Egypt. And so I picked it up, and yeah, it was the President of the United States and the Vice President on the phone. And he called and was like, "Listen, I'm calling to tell you that I'm going to let you retire, or you're going to retire as a chief, with everything that you've earned over the past 20 years. Because the punishment they had tried to give me is I was going to retire as a E1.
In E1?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's what I don't think anybody really knows, is because they had thrown the book at me and they sentenced me to 4 months in the Brig, which I'd already served almost triple that, or over twice that. But because you get that 4 months, that's automatic reduction to E1. And so it would have been like 20 years never existed.
Yeah.
So he was like, "That's not happening. I'm letting you retire as a chief, and with everything that you've earned." And then he talked to me about, he knew more about my case than I think most people. He knew all the intricacies of everything that had happened, all the crap the prosecution had pulled. He was disgusted by it. And he was like, he's like, "We don't treat our warfighters like this." He's like, "This is not while I'm president." He's like, "We don't throw away our warfighters." And he's like, "So I'm going to, thank you for your service, and I'm going to let you get out with everything that you earned." And then he, really made a bunch of remarks about my wife, how amazing she is, and how why she's the reason that he was even involved. That he was like, she's a remarkable person to watch fight. You know, I forget what he said. He said, you know, she's a good salesman. She stands by her product, and she's like, that product is you, you know. And so talked to him and both the vice president. Just, I was, you know, in shock. You know, what are you going to say?
Yeah.
Both on the phone. I just sat there and listened to them and thanked them over and over. And, yeah. So
they were going to pull your SEAL trident.
Well,
too.
that's so after I get off the phone with them, I go into work the next day and I go right to trade it where I'm banned from. I drive right on. I'm like, dude, fuck this. I walk in and I'm like, hey, I want my paper. Like all I wanted was my paperwork to put my retirement in, which they were not giving me. I go up to the third deck, walk into the admin, and you would have thought I walked in with a shotgun. I mean, it was all admin people in there, and they all like stop what they're doing. And they're like, oh my gosh. And I literally was like, hey, I just need this, this, and this, and I'll be out of here, you know. And they were like, oh, you know, they were all helpful. They're like, definitely. And the mass chief of Trade It comes walking out, sees me, and it was so awkward. He was like, oh, what's up? And I was like, hey, how's it going? And he's like, oh. And then he walks back in his office and shuts the door. And I'm like, okay. Comes out about 30 seconds later, completely different demeanor, like bowed up, gets in my face and is like, who gave you authority to even come in here? Like, you're not, like, just being a complete douchebag. And he's like, you're not allowed in here. I don't know what you think you know, what makes you think you can walk up in here? And I just turned and looked at him and was like, you know, because he said, who gave you the authority to come here? And I looked at him and was like, the president of the United States, when he called me yesterday. I was like, get the fuck out of my face. And his face was like, he like walked back into his office, and I had it at that point. I was like, dude,
yeah,
fuck you. Fuck all of you guys. I was like, in my paperwork. I mean, the admin people were cool. I had no problem with them, but just him. And then the CO of TradeEt comes walking out. This happened. He comes walking out of his office, looks at me, and then goes back in his office and shuts the door. Like, these are grown ass Navy SEALs that we're talking about here. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, are we like, really? You know, but either way, I left there. I didn't go back. I just got everything I needed. And I go back to supply to put in for retirement, and I get notified by Group 1. They call me. They're like, oh, yeah, you can't put that in because now we're going to take you to Trident Review Board and we're pulling your bird.
Man, they just wouldn't fucking let it go.
You couldn't make it up. I literally sat down with the Group 1 Master Chief and had to I tried to have like this heart-to-heart talk with him. I'm like, dude, I get it. You guys are coming after me. Like, I'm public enemy number 1. I was like, but do you know what this looks like? Like, the president just said I could retire and just let me go. And now you're coming after me again. I was like, this looks like you're giving the middle finger to the president of the United States. And I was like, you do understand that? And he was like, no. That's not what we're doing. I was like, okay. I'm like, that's what it's going to look like. But I welcomed, they were like, you're going to go to the Trident Review Board. And I welcomed it. I was like, fine. I was like, I'll go. I was like, because that is the first and only time you guys have ever offered to hear my side of the story. And if it has to be in front of a Trident Review Board and I'm able to talk to a bunch of senior enlisted and give my side, I welcome it. I was like, even though I already know there's a predetermined outcome that you guys are going to pull my bird. But if that's what it takes, you know. And I went and reviewed. So when you have a Trident Review Board, you can go and review the evidence beforehand to see what they're going to, you know, bring up. And I was going to trial all over again. I mean, it literally was like I had never been to trial. They were just like, all the charges again, which I was like, okay. But literally the next day, the president steps in again and tweets. I wake up to a tweet that said, you will not be taking his trident. get back to work. Like, dude, I mean, and so I walk into work the next day and I'm like, you know, what are you going to do now? You know, and they told me, they were like, oh no, we're still pulling your trident. And I was like, okay, you know, I don't know where this is going, but it's like, it's not going to end. I mean, you're going up against the president,
Yeah.
which that's on you.